Welcome back to the MercyCast, where we are learning the art of compassion through life's adversity. I am your host, Raleigh Sadler. All of us have reasons for what we do, right? Everything we do, if we're caring for people and we're doing works of compassion or trying to do random acts of kindness, there's a reason for that. And it's part of your story. Every year, over 23,000 kids age out of the foster care system in the U.S. This has been something that for me has been a burden. This has impacted my life, ultimately changed my life and helped me focus on vulnerability. So for me, it's always worth talking about. But my guest today, Jill Marrier, her and her family, they felt called to be part of the solution. And so with that, Jill, welcome to the MercyCast.
Hey.
Tell me more, Jill. You see this big problem. All of these children aging out of the foster care system, they're not getting the services they need, and something clicks for you. Tell me about that.
I would say, especially with having a child in my home now, 17, because I would say that they're especially because as you learn, I'm a medically fragile foster parent. I work with special needs medically fragile children. And the older these children get in the system, the harder it is for them to find placements. A lot of homes won't take them in. That part is the most heartbreaking for me. I understand where a lot of families are coming from because it is a lot of work. But at the same time, these are children without families, without someone to advocate for them.
Yeah.
And it's just devastating for me to see that. I couldn't imagine what would happen with him if I hadn't said yes to him.
Absolutely. Because oftentimes I feel like we assume that we're all playing at the same level, that we all have the same things going for us, and we don't. When I worked in a children's home, I remember thinking, what's going to happen when these residents age out?
Yeah.
Where do they go? Who cares for them? Who guides them? Who mentors them? Are they going to be on their own? And it was a scary thought because these were good kids. These are really good kids. And you know how tough the world can be. And then you just see this kid who you don't know what's next, and it can be overwhelming. Had you always cared about foster kids, or was this something new? Tell me more.
I would say that I've always wanted to, for quite a long time, do adoption. I wanted a large family of my own. And I wanted not just biological children, I wanted to make a difference and adopt. And fostering was more kind of as I got older, I thought, well, it'd be great to be able to. I've always loved kids, and it's always been my thing. It's been my title in life more than anything else I do in my world. That's what makes me me. I couldn't even, my core is mom, and that's my identity to me. And so I guess being able to be mom to the kids that I've said yes to, it has given me a definition, like you said, but you asked if this is something I've always wanted to do for a long time. Yes. Did I always want to do medically fragile special needs? No. So that's like you said, for a lot of people, it's a bubble you don't know exists until you're in that bubble. And then you realize there is a very real problem out there, especially for these children. So God just kind of likes to push you out of your comfort zone and into these things to show you what's really going out there in the world. We need to do something about it.
Tell me more about that medically fragile aspect.
My biological son, Josiah, we call him JoJo, he was born with a sense of brain damage. He has cerebral palsy and epilepsy. I started fostering when he was a year old, but DFACS would always say, you really should do special needs children. And I was like, oh, no, no, thank you. I do not want to do that. But they kept encouraging me that you would do really good at this because it's something you're very passionate about when you already know what you're doing because you have your son. And it took them a few years to convince me. But after I started seeing the great need of homes that wanted to open up for children like that saw these children for who they are and to advocate for them, then I started saying yes to that. And I've never turned back from that.
That's really beautiful. And it's interesting too how they're like, you should really do this. And you're like, I don't know.
And no, I'm good. It's funny is I told DFACS, I don't want anybody with epilepsy because JoJo has battled seizures and that's scary. And I currently have 4 children that have epilepsy in my home. So God is like, yeah, you can say no all you want.
Do you
So
think that experience with JoJo prepared you for what you're doing now?
yeah, it did. I know that God doesn't make the bad things like this happen. The world is broken, sin is in place, things happen. I think God uses bad experiences to do better good in the world. So I believe that as each child that's come into my home, as my case person, God has always got a plan. Some has not worked out, like replacements never came to us, but God has always had the exact right child come into our home that in that season we could help the most because of the experience my son and other children have taught me. I would say that we steer, our adopted son Amir, it was Trick Vent. And we would never have been able to say yes to our daughter Cassie if it wasn't for our son Amir's just him teaching us the things that his medical needs. And I don't think I would have been able to do Amir if JoJo hadn't started me and taught me. So it was like a stair step up in teaching me the skills to take care of another child. And then God's like, okay, here's this. And now I've got you to do this for you. And then it's been a it's been quite a journey. So at this point, I'm like, okay, God, what's next?
It sounds like you have been growing since day one. You had that initial experience with JoJo, and now, after a couple of years of people saying, I think you'd be really good at this, you're finally like, okay.
Yeah.
Then it's like with each situation, you feel like you're growing more. And then it sounds like your heart towards it changed. You went from, no, I don't want to do it to, come on. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's next? We really want
Yeah.
to care for people.
Yeah, I like to take. I prefer. I'm not saying I don't like. I prefer to say yes to the hard ones. The kids that the more medically complex children. Now, and that's funny though, isn't it? Because I told DFAX no, but now it's more. I have seen these children that are so sick are the ones that nobody wants. That not want to say nobody wants, but everybody's too afraid to say yes to. Our daughter Cassie was terminal for 2 years. We were there for her. And I couldn't imagine. That's what drives me, seeing my son and going, the worst, it's one of a parent's worst nightmares, especially as a special needs medical parent. What will happen to my child if something happens to me? And so I look at these other children. I'm like, think about my son, and I'm like, that would be so awful if that was my son in the system and didn't have a family to be with him in the hardest moments of his life. That's the drive for me today.
And I think you're right when you say sometimes these children are not adopted because people are scared. It's not necessarily the child's fault, but if people don't know if they're equipped.
Right. And it
And
is scary.
is there anyone out there equipping parents to care for these kids with adverse medical conditions that make it more difficult to be fostered?
There is. I would say that our network, my hub is I have a palliative care doctor that is really like family to us. She cares for several of our children. We've lost two children in the process of doing this, and she was there in holding our hands through their grief. She went to the funeral home and painted Cassie's hands. She came to my home when one child passed, and she was there the whole process through. I would say that her and our other medical people that we've known through the years, they are our rocks. They are the ones that have supported us. If I'm like, I don't know what to do, they are the ones on speed dial to help me through that process. So I would say that Children's Hospital, especially between Atlanta and Augusta, have been incredibly supportive of teaching us and guiding us through each of our child's needs that come here.
Well, that's such a good example because so many of us, when we try to care for vulnerable populations, just really our neighbors, whoever that person is that's in need of love and care, a lot of times we feel like we're in over our heads because we think we have to do it alone. And I love how
Yeah.
you shared how the children's hospitals from Atlanta to Augusta have come alongside of you guys, and you have
Yeah.
this palliative care network of people who are there. I think we can't do this stuff alone. I don't think we can love our neighbors by ourselves. We
Yeah.
can make an effort, but at the end of the day, it takes a village. It
It
takes
does.
a community to come alongside of people in the community. And I love how you guys aren't doing that alone.
What I love about our palliative care doctor is we've known her for 5 years now. What I love about her, and other doctors we've known for a long time, especially for those when she comes into the room, my kids are just they call her name and they're very excited to see her. And it's just like there's a relationship there. She's their village. She is their person fighting for them to get all that they need, helping them. These children have a network of people that love them and support them. My kids have their teachers at their school, especially like our special ed teachers. They're texting, they're calling me, they're loving on our children, they're supporting them when we're not present. They're becoming like their school moms. It takes a village, and it's not just for supporting the foster family, but the village for the children. That shows the children, hey, you have so many people out there that love you and are supporting you after whatever they've gone through. It's a wonderful experience for them.
I know that many in our audience are foster parents, and I'm sure as they're hearing this, they've got to be encouraged because, yeah, I do believe that God desires that these children be cared for. I firmly believe that. I mean, scripturally, theologically, and to see how he's bringing village like a village together to care for these children. I think it'd be important for us to hear about Cassie's Care Farms. What is it? Kind of how did it come
Uh,
to be?
Cassie's Care Farm is like I had told you, is God has stair steps for our lives. We have from JoJo to our son Amir, who's a healthy, rambunctious 7-year-old in school now. This was a child that was told he might never walk or talk, and he is all over the place. You can't get that child to stop talking now. Amir brought us to become parents to Cassie. And our caseworker at the time continually reminded us when she made that call because they knew we were trach vent trained foster parents, and there's not a lot of trained foster parents in the community. And our doctor knew about us too. She was like, there's a little girl. They reached out to our caseworker, and our caseworker called us and said that she's terminal. They don't know how much longer she's going to live. They said there's nothing but a brain stem that's viable. She's a lot going on. Are you sure that you can take this on? And I said, yes. Isn't it funny? The person that said no epilepsy jumped on this, and God just kept working on my heart. Cassie came to us when she was 3 months old, and Cassie lived for 2 years and more than a lot of the doctors thought she would ever live. We always treated and loved Cassie like she had more than just a brainstem. Cassie couldn't smile. She couldn't, but she could open her eyes. She could yawn. She could stretch. She couldn't control her body temperature. So we were very tied into home because she was so fragile. So we couldn't go much anywhere for 2 years. When Cassie passed away, it'll be 3 years this July. It was kind of sudden and unexpected, though it was expected. We weren't ready for it. If anyone's ever ready for something like that, and it's also, I've never lost a child, and it was pretty reeling for me. And we already had our nonprofit horse rescue that we started several years ago. We had created the horse and farm thing for our own children. We realized seeing foster children coming to the home and our own kids, how much they love the animals. It helped them through the process of coming into a strange home and saying, oh, you're not so scary anymore. You have goats, sheep, and horses. This is fun. We just opened these kids up a lot more from being afraid. We created that farm. When Cassie passed away, one of our supporters said, you should create Cassie's Care Farm. That was the beginning of Cassie's Care Farm. The dream started in August of that year. We started working through like grant writing, going for nonprofit information. It took years to get here. But Cassie's Care Farm now is a handicap accessible farm area for all children to come into that has handicap accessible garden beds, handicap accessible sandboxes. We have wheelchair pathways from the animals to the gardens. We have a butterfly garden. We created in honor of another little girl that passed away that always reminded me of Cassie. So I told the mom, we've got to do something for her too. So we created Abigail's butterfly garden for Abigail. This month, we've created events for special needs and foster children that we host once or twice a year. This summer, we have a therapy camp for kids with a licensed occupational therapist working with kids that have different needs.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that gets to the heart of this podcast, this idea of learning the art of compassion through life's adversity. It's almost like Cassie still speaks through the work that you're doing. And that I I don't know, I love that story because I think sometimes when we suffer, we take that pain, and it's awful to see people we love hurt, and it's always awful to lose them. But there's something beautiful when that motivates us to care for people in similar situations and to take steps of faith that we would have never taken had we not gone through that, had we not known that person. And on our path to healing, we
Yeah.
say, you know what? I want to do this. I want to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. So it makes me, even it's been 3 years. Every once in a while, there's like something that ticks and it just kind of I get a little bit more emotional. But I think for now, when you talk about like that and to see, to being able to honor my daughter in, sorry,
Yeah.
and to be able to honor my daughter in helping other children and to know that I can make her memory live on in that way. And I guess that drives me even to the children I have in my home right now and why I say yes to each of the children that comes in. Because there's times I thought I can't do this anymore. I can't lose another child. But then I think of Cassie and I think of my other child I lost. I've got to keep doing this for these kids. That's a way to honor each child to help another child. To be able to go out to Cassie's Care Farm and like especially this morning and stuff and seeing children with various things going on with their own physical and mental and stuff, being able to enjoy everything I worked so hard for Cassie. It is just it's a kind of that's where the motion hits for me is being able to is with God using something so hard in your life and making something beautiful out of it.
Yeah. And beauty from ashes, right? That feeling of, wow, this really hurts, but something good has come from it. And I think
Right.
that's a lot of our lives. I think that is an opportunity we can take in our suffering. We don't have to, but I think I do. I think those hard times open our eyes to opportunities or needs around us that God could be calling us into, saying, here are some people that need my love. Will you love these people? And I really see that in your work. Is this something you're doing locally, regionally, nationally with Cassie's Care Farm?
For Cassie's Care Farm, we do it with any child that wants to come.
Okay.
It's not, I mean, we have a lot of local families that use it mostly, but it's like when you go to a state park and it's opened up like an honor system. We don't charge anybody in the community to come. We just say, hey, this is the hours it's open. Come and enjoy it. So we don't charge the families. They get to come and enjoy it. Especially for foster children, the world is overwhelming at times and stores and crowds of people. Sometimes you don't know what they've gone through. It's a lot. And to be able to go to a quiet little place out in the country where all these farm animals are, and you don't have to worry as a parent about a child that's going to have a meltdown or get overwhelmed. You're in your own quiet space here. It gives a kind of sense of a breath of fresh air, literally, that you can truly relax without fear of what your child may do or worry that this is an environment that's too much for this child because it has created a space that a lot of children I've heard from parents with, especially the autism spectrum and stuff, that they're like, my kid normally cannot handle things like this. They have meltdowns, and this child comes in and they're just having a great time going freely about the farm and not worrying about anything triggering them. I think that is a beautiful part about, because it just, we don't limit who can come. We just say, here it is, enjoy it. We're not charging anybody. And I think that's important, especially in today's economy. So
No, I think that's beautiful. And I love how you drew attention to this idea that it is for the children, but it's also for the
yeah,
parents because anytime you're caring for someone going through a hard time, it's going to be hard for everyone and it's going to impact you. And we've all had friends who didn't leave the house for 2 years because of the needs. You're stuck. You want to be there. There are days where it's a struggle and you're just like, this is really hard. God help. But, you want to be there, but to know that there's a place you can go that not only are your children safe, but you're safe. You're safe to not be judged. You're safe to just be in a quiet place where you can breathe. I think
Yeah.
because I know like for a lot of us, me included, there's times where you're just like, I don't want to take anything from the outside. I don't want any more external things. We got enough that we're handling right now. I got enough. You have a good day, guys. You go and do your thing. And to know that you don't have to deal with that, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love to see the parents just sitting back at a picnic table while their kids are running around and they can breathe. You know what I mean? And like you said, sometimes this life is so overwhelming. It's busy. It's like a rat race. We're always running here and there, and not everybody's blessed with a home in the country or a farm or anything like that. And that's why we did this, because we had that with Cassie. We were lucky to be here and have a farm and country living. So it wasn't such a bad thing for us. But I couldn't imagine for these poor parents stuck in apartments and things like that, that they're just tied in and it's so isolating already. No, like I said, not just with special needs and medical children, but there are a lot of foster children dealing with trauma and emotional stuff that and sometimes as parents, we're just like, I need a moment, you know? So, and that's why I'm glad the parents can still have their moment while their kids are playing with the animals or whatever activities there's out there for the kids to enjoy. They can just sit and take that moment. 'Cause usually the kids are pretty occupied with the farm animals and the little games we have out there for them.
Well, I think that's incredible. And it reminds me of a story I heard just recently from a couple that I met. I won't give any details of where they were from, but they work with kids in the foster system that might be a little bit tougher to foster. Kids with severe trauma, kids who act out, kids who've been through a lot. And this couple was telling me stories, and they were both like, "It's tough, but these are our kids." And they're like, "Raleigh, I could tell you stories." They told me a few, but what was interesting was it was like the more they did it, even though there were hard times with it, they wanted to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I was really amazed because it wasn't about money from the state. It wasn't about clout. It wasn't about anything. It was about like they started doing it and that was the life they wanted to help these kids and to give these kids who sometimes acted out in severe ways to where, we're going to have to call the law. Like we're going to have to call the police. But these kids were receiving love. And one thing this couple told me was some of our kids just, their normal is different than our normal. And learning that new normal is really hard. And I just love that with what you're doing, you've made that transition from, I don't want to do this. Get it? I love that you want me to do it. It's great. It's great. Thank you. Thank you for the boost of confidence. It's wonderful. Don't want to do it. To this is what I want to do. And we're going to
Yeah.
make our house even more accessible. We want to make it accessible for the other people who are doing this. And we want to build this network. I think that's the heart of this love your neighbor principle is when you really see that your neighbor is right there. Oftentimes your neighbor is your vulnerable neighbor and you're able to meet them at that place. I think God does something in our hearts. He starts to change us. And it's not like we become these social superheroes who are out to save the day, but it helps us. I think we
Yeah.
were designed to love our neighbor and it helps us understand God's love for us. It helps us love ourselves. What do you think about that? Because that's something I spend a lot of time thinking about.
I don't want to be the person I would be without these kids.
Hmm.
I would say that, especially, I think God allows, I mean, I think being a parent really helps you in a lot of ways become, I don't know, it just not selfish, I guess. Because you can't think of yourself. You got to think of all these children you're responsible for. But and I would say, especially what you were saying with those family, it is not about the financial part. It's not about trying to get money from the state. It is realizing how broken the system is and how these children, there's so many children need a home and family. It is hard to say no when you've been down that journey, especially as having a child of your own. God says this is the way, walk in it. And I guess in a way, as a foster family, it's like with your family, you shared what an amazing family that is, because that is hard. I have been down that journey short. It is a really tough one. My gear is more as because I have a medical background, is medically fragile. but in everybody's got their thing that God blesses them with. And it sounds like that's an amazing family you're sharing. And I love to hear about those foster homes and those people advocating hard for these kids and loving them through their mess. That is what we do here too. It's you can't turn your back on it once you're in it. You start realizing it.
Well, I've found that oftentimes we can talk a big game about being godly. We can talk a big game about growing close to Jesus. But at the moment that we kind of get uncomfortable or things get hard for a while and that discomfort doesn't lift for a little bit, we can want to run away.
Yeah.
We want to hide. And we quit a lot of things that we probably didn't need to quit. And I think something I've been learning is love is that thing that keeps showing up. We can be infatuated with God's calling to love our neighbors, but love is that thing that shows up and says, this is scary. This is uncertain. This hurts. This bothers me. This triggers past trauma for me. But I'm going to stay here and I'm going to keep going in a healthy way. I'm going to learn how I can receive love and give love through this process. I think that's what you've been describing so much in this talk today. It may not be specifically to do exactly what you're doing, but you're modeling this idea of, yeah, this was scary, but I started loving JoJo.
Yeah.
And then that love expanded and that love expanded. And it got to a point where you said, I don't know where I'd be without my kids. And even the way you said that, without my kids, that's how your love is expanded. I think that's beautiful because we all start somewhere and it's so easy to run away because we're uncomfortable. But maybe somewhere in that discomfort, maybe not listening to those feelings, maybe not trusting those random thoughts that come into your mind and just saying, I'm still here. I accept that I'm scared, but I'm going to love the person in front of me. And I don't know. I think God does something with that. He is love and he loves the little children. He's constantly inspiring us to love the people around us. And so, yeah, I think that's really beautiful. How would you, in these last couple of moments, encourage us to love the people that God has put in our path?
That's a tough question.
You're welcome.
That's a tough question. There are times I've had a really hard time.
Well, then you're the right person to answer it.
Foster children. I mean, and I will say that we have had some difficult placements too, and I know that foster can laugh with me on that. There are times where I have to tell, "Boy, God, you're really testing my patience here." That's the way He wants us to be patient. Sometimes I feel like He puts the hardest things in front of us to teach us patience. So my children do test a lot of my Jesus in me. I love my babies, but like any parent can say that. Oh gosh, I repeat a lot of things. There's one thing that I repeat every single day, especially when I feel like I'm a very tight string of where I'm at, like a balancing act of my life and my kids, and I'm feeling a little more tired. I just keep saying, love is patient, love is kind. And I just go over and over in my head. Sometimes it just takes a lot of repeating. Love is patient, love is kind. I need to be kind. I need to be loving to my children and to the person in front of me. And also, my mom is a very godly Christian woman. And actually, our palliative care doctor is here. I am surrounded by people and our caseworker. I'm surrounded by people that remind me when I feel stressed, I talk to them. They're like, it'll be okay, Jill. Remember, you got to be loving. You got to be patient. And so it's not just me repeating it. I have a community around me that reminds me too. I can't give advice when I struggle sometimes with it too, but it's the community around you. Just make sure you surround yourself with a community that is supportive. There are times where you're like, I cannot do this anymore. It's not even just my experience of losing children through my losses and through heartbreak. It is through the system.
Yeah.
There are times where I've like, I can't do this anymore. And God is like, yes, you can, and you will. You just take a moment to breathe and it'll be okay. And then He just keeps putting other things in front of me and says, this is the way, like I said, walk it, no matter how tough it gets. So I think that God has never promised us the journey to be easy. Nothing we do in this life is going to be, if it's easy, it's probably not the right
No.
thing. If God's going to put something you through, He's going to put you through it. And I feel like I've always said it's like you get those rock tumblers and you get to put those rocks in there and they tumble them up into beautiful shapes. I feel like that's what life is for us. And the journeys that we pick, and especially foster care, God puts us in these rock tumblers and He just beats us up in a way. And when we're through the process, we just become this beautiful rock. So I feel like that is the process through this. I would say to be patient and loving for the people in front of us is to remember that you're in a rock tumbler of life, that none of us are perfect. We're all broken. We're all going through a process. And we just have to keep repeating, love is patient, love is kind. So
I mean, yeah, you really got me with that, because that is something that's been coming up all day for me. I think it's 1 Corinthians 13, verse 7. It just keeps coming up today. And I think you're right. I think we are learning kindness and patience as we are dealing with things that are hard. And everything in the world tells you if something's hard, run away, get away from it.
right.
But that's not what Jesus tells us.
No.
Jesus actually tells us, no, that's actually the good place, because I
Yeah.
am there. I am near the brokenhearted. I am close to those who are crushed, those who are going through the rock tumbler of life. I'm in there with you. I love
Yeah.
you. Like we all want to talk about experiencing God's presence. Well, yeah, when you're suffering, there you go.
There.
Merry Christmas. I mean, it's the whole thing, right? Like,
God went into the fiery furnace. So you just have to go through some really hard choices in life to fully be on your knees, trusting in Jesus in that moment.
wow. Thank you, Jill. This has been really good. Thank you so much for the reminder. How can people learn more about what you all are doing?
I mean, you can go to our website. We actually have a Facebook page. It's a Mad Hatter Farm, and you can look us up there through social media. But also, there's our website, madhatterfarm.org. And you can read more about us and our story there too. I'm pretty open on our farm page. Our farm page is not just about our farm. It is about our life, our journey, and our kids. I like to share as much as I can about our own children to, I guess, open the world's eyes. Because like I said before I became a medically fragile mom of my own son, I had no idea. I had no idea what was out there. And until I became a foster parent and then a medically fragile foster parent, I had no idea it was out there. So I hope to advocate and speak out. And I guess God has said, there you go. And that's all I want to do is just bring awareness in hopes that there will be other homes that say, okay, you know what? I want to do this. And more children that will have a family to fight for them, advocate for them, and love the hard stuff.
Well, thank you so much for being on the Mercy Cast, Jill.
You're welcome.